Hello, welcome to a new episode, very first episode of a series where I point out frustrations with operating systems and software. So we're gonna start off with Google search. So I'm just going to just do a basic search. Let's say I don't know much about Star Wars. Okay, so I kind of enter in Star Wars, and then I guess I press enter or I click the this search button right here. So let's click that button. Okay, so it looks like there's these links which are listings, and underneath of them they have details and things like that. And then we have these links at the top, and it also looks like we can scroll down. Okay, so to the standard user, most people will just kind of think, oh, this is just the typical website. It's got everything kind of I need towards the top, and then towards the bottom, I guess there's this common thing where there's like this row of clicking new pages or something. So I guess next would take me, I guess, to 2 because I'm on 1. There we go. And then I guess I can jump to 10, but maybe not like 11 unless I jump to 10 first, and then now 11 through 14 are kind of in view. So what is actually going on here? And I'm just going to kind of reveal to everyone kind of the way I think of things, because I don't think the way I think is the same way as most other people think. I'm very analytical and technical when it comes to these types of things, and graph theory and hierarchy kind of trees that spawn out of graph theory are the way I think about these things. And so I'm going to show you exactly what I see when I look at this browser. This is exactly what I see. I see a browser window, and then inside of that, inside my browser program, it's displaying kind of like this blank page here with stuff on it, and that's called the view. So everything that Google kind of provides me to see, they kind of put it all in this one kind of rectangle, if you will. And within this rectangle, there's these multiple items. Okay, so you have a search bar at the top, and that contains everything like the text for searching, and it contains the button that says search and everything like that. And then you have listings, and these include the links and the details and things like that for all your different kind of things that show up after you've searched for something. And then at the very bottom of the page, you have this page selection. But all of these things are kind of within this thing, this kind of rectangle that you can scroll up and down on, and that's called a view. So for rectangles that you can kind of scroll up and down, and they're all kind of in a two-dimensional space, that's called a view. Now, this is very silly because it's very difficult to keep going on to different pages. It's very difficult to look at page 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and just skip to them without having to scroll down through each one. When in reality, you should be able to just click once and see the different pages. And scrolling actually forces the user to take these actions that they shouldn't have to take. They should really just be able to click 1, 2, 3, 4 and see all the listings that fit on those pages. But we'll get into that a little later. First, let's just talk about this hierarchy and some other options. So I kind of built a couple more trees here, and this is the first alternative that I came up with. You have your browser, and then you have your main view, and then you on the main view, which is its own scrollable kind of rectangle, you have these three things. You have a search bar on the top, and then you have a page view, and then you have the page selection on the bottom. And you might think, well, what's the difference between this and what I already see? Well, the difference is, and I'll just kind of give you a visual representation of what the difference would be. Let's go back to Google. Okay, here we go. So I'm gonna search again for let's do Star Trek just to keep it balanced here. So when I scroll down the listings would actually have their own rectangle. So I could scroll down the main page like this, and instantly here at the bottom, even from the very beginning, there would be the numbers. The numbers would be they would just kind of hover at the bottom here, and the page wouldn't be that big. It would just be this big, and then I could scroll down the listings within their own window. So if I ever wanted to change pages, or if I ever wanted to search for something new, that's always there on the top. But inside of that view, there's another view that I actually scroll through the listings. So there's actually two scroll windows in this alternative layout. But even that, technically speaking, that's not even as far as you can go with this idea. There's actually more you can do, and that's where I kind of made this tree right here. You have your browser, and then within your browser you have your main view, which kind of represents one page on the browser. Basically, that's what the main view is. It's just a page that's isolated, and your browser kind of separates the main views. It separates it. You might even make it secure, so just like Google Chrome, one tab can't read what the other tabs have, so you don't have passwords being stolen and things like that. So within the main view, you have a search bar, and then you have a search view. So that the search view will pertain to anything that you've searched for. And what's nice about this is it kind of encapsulates anything that's complicated within the search view. That gets all put into its own rectangle, and it doesn't matter how complicated it is. It doesn't matter how messy it is. You can always organize your search bars and your search views and actually add more of them than just one. Google, if they wanted to, they could make it so that you can have, as many as you want. You could start with one, but let's say I'm searching two things at once. Well, I can just click the plus button, and there's another kind of search window down at the bottom. Now, many people might not necessarily want that. They might just be used to making new tabs and things like that. But it doesn't have to be separated at that level. And then within the search view, you would have your page selection and your page view. So after you've searched for something, the view will have information, but there's going to be multiple pages. So the search view is going to have to manage different pages, and that's where you can have, a selector that kind of manages what page you want to be looking at, and then the page view, which is going to show you everything in that page, and it's going to give you all the listings. Now, this is actually, it does have more levels of hierarchy. So if you aren't very used to graphs, you might think, well, this is more complicated. It'll be harder for people to understand or something like that. In a way, it is. I mean, there is some truth to that, but if you have experience with graphs or with software development and things like that, ultimately, organizing things in such a fashion like that is very useful. And I don't want to hit too hard on Google and say well, they're not a great company and all this stuff. They are a really great company. They had a really awesome idea, and mathematicians don't usually get rewarded financially for the things that they do as much as what's happened in Google, but that's an example of where mathematics, with statistics, with the PageRank algorithm and things like that, that's where it has succeeded greatly. And usually when things are invented in that kind of sense, even though there's some theory behind that, it's only when it's applied, and luckily this is Google is where where something like that has been able to be applied, um, is where there's rubber on the road success, and that's where you see you know what comes out of it. So they can afford to kind of have a browser system that kind of works like this because they're so large, and their success spawns from the way that they show their listings, because that's great. I wouldn't even know how to critique that because it's very complicated, very in depth. But as far as the user interface, I think this is something that they could consider changing. Um, they, there's a lot of other websites that do the same thing, like Amazon. I've had frustrations actually looking for items on Amazon, and I wanted to look kind of 50 pages in for some reasons. I had reasons to want to see like the 100th page on a particular search because I couldn't sort things and I couldn't filter things the way I wanted to keep out things that were too inexpensive or too expensive when I was sorting them. So I had to actually manually enter in the URL, what page number I wanted to go to, and that frustrated me. And I didn't want to have to keep scrolling down the page every time that I wanted to find something. And so if Amazon would have had a hierarchy system like even just this one, I would not have had that problem nearly as badly. So there you go. That is my 2 cents on the Google search, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if there's enough positive feedback about it, then I will be glad to make more. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.